Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. We want to welcome all of you to SKTV. If you are following us from Liberia, Australia, Canada, the USA, Europe, Asia, wherever you're following us from, we want to welcome each and every one of you. Welcome to SKTV. Would like for you to help us to share the show. Today, we are having an interview with Councillor Eloshus Tool. As some of you are already aware, Councillor Eloshus Tool is the Secretary General of the ANC. We are going to be in an interview here with him very, very shortly. Members of the team should be joining us here, but we want to welcome all of you. Help us to share the show. Let's share the show, please. Let's share the show. It's been a very busy week. It's been a very busy time, but we are grateful to be here today. Councillor Eloshus Tool will be here to have this time with SKTV. I believe he's been on SKTV before. If not, he will clarify it. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. At some point, both Sekou and Telvi should be joining us here. We want to welcome all of you. Let's share the show. Let's invite other people so that we can make sense of some of these legal things that are going on. We can have some understandings of what's happening in the country, both within the CPP and the ruling party. What's going on in the country? It seems to be we have a total mess on our hand, a messy mess, or like I would say, a beautiful nonsense on our hand. We want to welcome all of you. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's share the show. We want to greet the Liberian people, those of our family members, friends, loved ones, and fellow Liberians. We want to say welcome to SKTV if you're just joining us. Today is April 30th. Can you imagine? Today is April 30th. Someone said they're not hearing me. Well, you might as well check your gadget. Please check your gadget. You might have to increase the volume. And I hope that's not a problem. If you are hearing me, please give me some thumbs up or let us know as we get situated here for this interview. Let us know, please. Let us know if you're hearing us as we move forward. I think we're audible enough. Let me double check here before we move forward into this because we don't want any. You hear me now? Okay, very good. Apparently it was your gadget, but thank you. Thank you for that. But ladies and gentlemen, we want to, like we said earlier, we want to reference the Liberian people as the most important people on earth, as you are already aware. The fact that you are Liberian, we want to reference the Liberian people. Most importantly, we want to reference the Liberian women as the most beautiful women on earth. I think Councillor Eloshus Tool would agree with me on that. If not, he would be held in contempt and we have some problems with the Liberian women or around the world. But I want to say thank you for tuning in. Let's share the show. Share the show. Invite others. Share into your different chat rooms. Momentarily, we should be starting here. We already have a Councillor Eloshus Tool. It was saying like, bro, warming up on the touch line. Councillor Eloshus Tool is in the back line here warming up. We can see him. We're grateful today to be here. In other news, really quick, we want to bring your attention. Tomorrow we have Madame Miss former presidential aspirant Medela Cooper. She will be our guest for tomorrow. So we want to welcome all of you. We want to make sure that is said that you are aware. But for today, we're playing host to Councillor Eloshus Tool. A lot to unpack. Let's share the show before we get here to our musical break really, really quick. Again, a lot to talk about, whether that the ANC, the ALP, the LP, the Unity Party, the CPP, the CDC, Liberia at large. a lot to talk about, a lot to uncover. So let's do us a favor here. Let's do us a favor here. Share the show, and share the show. Invite someone. Remember, we have been having problems with people getting the alert for the show. So please help us. It's critically important that you help us to share this show. Before we get to the musical break, we want to make this disclaimer, and we'll make it when we get back. As you've always been to our audience, our viewers from around the world, as you've always been, you've been nice to each and every one of our guests. You've been very respectful. Please do the same to Councillor Aloysius Stowe here as we play host to him. And we definitely trust that you do that. Another part of the announcements that we'd like to make really quick, and we'll go over this again, is not this Sunday, on the 8th, we'll be playing host to this time about the councillor that will bring in Councillor Tiawan Gonglo. The following Sunday, the 8th of May, we're playing host to Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, a presidential aspirant. He will be here. We are somebody said, okay, I will. Let me respond to that. I got a request here. I got a request here that I got to fulfill. All right. So yes, while we are getting situated here, really quick, we're waiting for the signal from Liberia. We're going to be connecting with Liberia really soon and very quickly. We're getting signal from them. We just want to make sure they're here before we get on to. They're running late because we have some technical issue, but I think it's resolved and they should be on here with us. Yes, so while we are waiting to get to the musical break, we would like to okay, that was done. Let me go here. So while we're waiting for this to unfold, we know there's a lot of things that's going on in the country and around the world. We are also aware of what's going on in and around the United States in terms of Ukraine and so forth. But quickly, a local news in the United States. Some of the things that are going on in the United States, we are aware that members of the Republican Party seem to be thrown on the bus, especially for this whole, can you imagine, this whole January 6th saga, the issue that happened January 6th. We're aware of, there's been serial proceedings here. Republican, one of the representative, Marjorie Greene, she's in trouble. Matt Gaetz is in trouble. So even the current minority leader, who should be the Speaker of the House, Calvin McCarthy, he's also in serious trouble. So we're talking about legal issues. We're talking about issues that concern Liberia. Let me get this going here really quick. Okay, so it's been shared with you. I just shared with you. You can check the person who I'm talking to already know. Already know what I'm talking about. So let me. Yes. So if you're just joining us, this is SKTV. Let's help us share the show. You're watching SKTV if you're joining us from Liberia. Let's recognize one or two people before we get. Okay, I think. Okay, very good. We're getting the folks here from Liberia. Let's connect with them. From Liberia, really quick. We have Chris to introduce himself really quick. We'll get to the musical break as we move on here. Chris, it's up to you. How are you? How's Liberia? What's going on, my man? We are waiting for Chris to connect with us here. Chris, my man, what's going on? We're waiting for you. We don't want to be held in contempt. The counselor is waiting. So let's do this really, really quick and get it on here as we also await us. But I think Sekou and Cllr would be joining us here very, very soon. Okay. Speaking of Cllr, Chris, you're muted. Oh, okay. I think he's connecting.
Hi, Steve.
Cllr, how are you?
I'm sleeping.
You're sleeping.
You're live.
You are live. You're already live.
You should have forewarned me. Hi, Chris.
Well, welcome to the show. Cllr, how are you?
I'm okay. Happy Saturday to everybody and our viewers around the world. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, Cllr is here. We're waiting Sekou. Let's get signal from Chris really quick. We'll get to the musical break here and we will get going. Really, really quick. No time to waste. Let's get signal really quick from Chris. Chris, can you hear us? Are you there? Are you ready? So we can move on. All right, Chris.
What? Chris in Cyprus? I can say I got on my glasses.
Chris is muted.
Oh.
Let's welcome one or two people really quick here while we're with Chris. Chris is muted. Let me send him quick something here really quick. Chris, can you hear us? All right, I guess he is hearing us there. Really quick, Rosalind Dix, we want to welcome you to the show. Life for Fun, we want to welcome you. Augustine Myers, we want to welcome you to the show. I don't want to butcher this name, but I will try my best. Adekun Bunny D. Stone, welcome to the show. Tut, we said welcome to the show. Swaleha Dolly, welcome to the show. Umetro Kranga, welcome to the show. Glenny Jean Genius, welcome to the show. How are you? Long time, Glenny. Rodney Wilson, welcome to the show. Timothy Now, welcome to the show. Ellen Paul, welcome to the show. Who is there? Vivian, welcome to the show. Well, let's move on really quick to our musical break here. Once we get back, we will be bringing on the counselor, and we'll also be headed strict to Liberia with Chris. Let me do this quick before we get to the musical break. Chris. Let's do this really quick before we get to the musical break. Help us to share the show. Send the whole thing started with friendship. Let's get back to friendship. We uno copyright to this song.
Lump. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not want betrayal, find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not want betrayal, find a friend like me.
Bombe oh, find a friend like me. Bombe jene oh, find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me.
Hey, see bestie. Your bestie not sweet like my bestie. Your bestie la bestie. Find a friend like me.
I say, see bestie wanting to wealthy. Find a friend like me. I hear them say they want me go. I say
Some of them say they want me go.
I say
Some friends you la oh. Some friends you la oh. feel like my bestie. The bestie, la bestie. Find a friend like me.
I say, see bestie, wanting to wealthy. Find a friend like me. Okoro, 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 okoro. They won't step on my blessing, but God get it breaking, yeah. Okoro, they won't call it my blessing, but God get it breaking, yeah. Okoro.
Friendship, see friendship. Can't see Papa T friendship. And I want no back for friendship. And I want that wedding friendship. Wangolo, 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 wangolo. Wango for bestie, wangolo, wango for daddy, wangolo.
I hear them say, they want me go, I say, I hear them say, they want me go, I say,
Some friendship, some friendship.
Well, we will leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. So friendship, then that O. Well, we'll determine whether these friendships are OY or there's something critically important. Well, I want to turn quickly to Johnson. Johnson, how are you today?
Yes, and yeah, thank you so much, Steve, and thanks to the team. Yes, all is good here in Liberia as we speak, and the time check is exactly 20 minutes past 6 o'clock. On the 30th day in the month of April and the 4th month in the year 2022.
But man, how the country do I will head to what 20 when you send me our late team because me and tell people looking at you now.
Yeah, in fact, you're right, but there are a lot of things happening here, and even though some every time we wake up, there are some news about airport and darkness and so on. But yes, we're moving strong. Albeit we're still moving very strong.
Y'all get light to that airport today?
Yeah, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's on, sometimes off. So, but we're just managing. Yeah, but thank God, at least light is there.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to our tournament, man. That small things that drop it.
Yeah. Well, definitely, Steve. We're gonna do that. Trust me, the team will do that actually.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining or you're watching SKTV, you're following us on SKTV as well. We want to welcome you today. We are in an interview / conversation here with Councillor Elisha Stoll from the ANC. We'd like to welcome Councillor Elisha Stoll to the show. Councillor Elisha Stoll, good evening, good afternoon, and how are you today? You are muted.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you? It's my pleasure to be on your show. How are you doing too?
We're doing very well here. How's Liberia? How's the country, and what's going on?
Liberia is good. Liberia is here. The day is cool outside. People are moving about their normal businesses, even though a lot of people think they are where they're not supposed to be and they ought to have been somewhere else in life. But such is the time and such is the condition.
Wonderful. Well, I'm not sure if this is your first time on SKTV, but would like to welcome you to SKTV.
Welcome.
Oh, I think I have appeared before. I don't know how many times, but I've appeared. And thank you for welcoming me.
Yes, sir. Well, quickly would want to welcome each and every one of our listeners. Please continue to help us share the show as we are above our time here. So we want to make sure we get straight into the conversation here with Councillor Elisha Stoll. Quickly, the disclaimer I want to make here to you is please show some respect to our guests, as you've always done to each and every guest we've had here. And thank you so much for your tolerance, your contributions. We see your live feed, your participation, and so forth. And thank you for sticking with us for the most important part of the shows, each and every one of the shows that we have here. We want to say thank you so much. You would have the opportunity at some point to either ask Councillor Elisha Stoll some questions, or maybe we could go on through the live feed to pick up one or two questions from there. But again, we'll get started straight. For some of you who do not know Councillor Elisha Stoll, I don't know him, so maybe this will be the opportunity for us to get to know him. Who's Councillor Elisha Stoll, and how did you become a councillor of all of the jobs in the world? Why councillor in Liberia, especially Liberia? How long you been doing this, and What can we say about Luscious Tool?
Well, first, I don't like titles. I prefer being called Aloysius or SG, Mr. Two, or but feel free to say whatever you want to say. To call me whatever you want to say. Yeah, I'm a lawyer by training. I spent many years in activism, human rights activism in Liberia for 15 years, 15 to 20 years, doing human rights work in Liberia. And so I have passion for helping other people whose rights have been abused, who lack the voice to speak for themselves, and who lack the courage to stand up for their own rights. I've done that successfully, helping many people, saving many lives under some of the dictatorial governments that Liberia had produced in our recent past history. So that's how, and when I after spending many years as an activist, I thought I would contribute better and more if I studied law. So I went on to studying law, and I became a lawyer, now practicing in Liberia. So
Okay, and you became a lawyer now practicing in Liberia. So Councillor Aloysius Tool, and I think I'm accustomed to using the title, so bear with me here. But I'd like to clarify this difference. We've clarified here before, but can you just, for the sake of our audience, the difference between attorney of law and counselor, because some people have frowned on when you call an attorney as opposed to counselor, vice versa. Can you just brief us on that? What
in Liberia, there's a system here, which is not in the US. In the US, nearly everyone is attorney.
Right.
But we have a system in Liberian law is quite different. So when you graduate from law school, Liberian law requires that you practice law for 5 years. So you graduate from law school, you are required to take the bar for attorney, the bar test to become an attorney. When you pass, then you are required to practice law for 5 years. After 5 years of active practice in law, then you are required to take a second test for the Supreme Court bar, which qualifies you now to become counselor at law. That enables you to practice law at the level of the Supreme Court. But when you are attorney, you are only allowed to practice law at administrative fora, at the circuit level, at the magisterial level. You cannot practice law at the Supreme Court. So speaking, the counselorship in Liberia appears to be the highest level of practicing law.
Okay, thank you for the clarity and context there. Just before I go to Telvi, I'd like to lay the stage of the basis for who you are in practicing law and so forth. Then in conjunction with being the SG or the Secretary General of the ANC, my question to you is, how long have you served as Secretary General of ANC, and when did you join the ANC, and which party were you affiliated with before coming to the ANC?
I've affiliated with the Liberian People's Party in time past. Many years ago, when I was a student in junior high school, I affiliated with the Liberian People's Party, serving as chairman for mobilization recruitment for district number 7. And then I became a founding member of the New Deal movement, serving as chairman for policy and planning. I didn't spend too long there, and then I left politics and moved into the civil society when I jumped into human rights work, where I spent over 15 years doing human rights work. When I graduated from law school and returned to Liberia, I said, look, for many years I try to labor against the ills in society. I try to remind policymakers, about good governance, about keeping their promises to the people. However, most of these things, those who are in power seem to be interested about their own personal interests. So probably I can enter politics and become a policymaker instead of always being a reminder, for policymakers. So I took a leap to enter politics. So in 2017, I think February in 2017, I entered politics and joined the ANC. And after the elections, when the ANC went for convention, I think 2019, I took the chance to vied for the Secretary General position of the ANC, and I became the Secretary General of the ANC since 2019.
Okay, so you became Secretary General of the ANC since 2019. So
Correct.
that means, in context, just to clarify here before we move forward, is you are totally aware, 100% of, if not all of the communications that come out from the ANC.
Now,
you
since I became Secretary General, that is correct.
And you approve them.
Now, I don't approve all communications. We have 3 levels of approvals and signatures. We have the office of the Secretary General, we have the office of the Chairman, and we have the office of the political leader. So it depends where the communication is coming from.
Okay, so would you differentiate that, considering we have to ensure that we are keeping in confiance with what you approve and what you know about and whatnot? Because as we progress into this conversation, then would know where to direct our questions.
The documents that I approve fall within my office as per the Constitution. I can't name them right now unless you have specific one you want to talk about. Are the same that documents that come from the office of the Chairman? I'm aware of them, but I don't approve them. I'm aware of them. I'm in know of them. Documents that come from the office of the political leader, I'm also aware of them, but I don't approve them. Those are specific for those particular offices.
Okay, so then I want to remind you about something really quick. Since we're speaking about documents, approval, and you being in the knowing, I want to remind you about something. When this whole noise of the CPP started, and there was a rebuttal from Mr. Alexander Cummings stating that he did not do that particular allegation that was alleged on him, there was a Facebook post that came out from Mr. Alexander Cummings' Facebook official page that stated, on the contrary, that he did. Few minutes, it was taken down. Are you aware of that post? Did you approve of it, or how does that work?
The official Facebook post of Mr. Alexander Cummings is managed by his office staff. I'm aware of what you are talking about. Look, within in a moment of posting something, there was an inadvertent post from one of the aides of Mr. Cummings, who was charged with the responsibility of keying in the information. He made that what I would call colossal blunder. And the moment it was noticed, his attention was called to it, and Mr. Cummings' attention was called to it, and he was told to rectify that.
Okay, so that means you had no part to play in it. It was not to your knowledge. It was not reviewed by you or by anyone else apart from maybe Mr. Alexander Cummings' staff that are working with him directly, right?
No, I didn't have any part to play.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarity.
I was aware of that post. I knew it was going to be made. I knew Mr. Cummings was making that comment. I knew he gave the directive to the office staff to put a post up. And when the error was made, his attention was called, and he directed him to rectify it.
Okay, thank you so much. Before I move to tell you here, we listen to a song from one of the Liberian musicians. You know, people sometimes laugh and joke with it. Some people find it entertaining and so forth. I find it entertaining. I find the wording's very, relatable, especially being a Liberian. But also, I find it to be very timely, considering this is within the same time frame that CPP, who seemed like you guys were in a very good marriage, good friends, and so forth, had this big noise coming up when this music or this album was released. What do you say about the friendship or the relationship now amongst members of the CPP?
I think the friendship it has not gotten back together yet. There's personal friendship that exists between a lot of the folks who were once in the United CPP. That personal friendship still exists despite the political acrimony. But in terms of the political friendship that existed, that doesn't exist anymore. I hope it will rekindle. I hope it will exist again, but that doesn't exist anymore. But the sense, the notion that a united and United CPP is the only vehicle for defeating this decadent regime. And I think our brothers and our colleagues on the other side in the Unity Party think the same way as we do. That United CPP can defeat Mr. Weah and give him a one term, and the dream for a United CPP is still possible.
Okay. The dream for the United CPP is still possible. Well, Telvi, with that, I will come back to that conversation you just laid, the basis you just laid. But Telvi, up to you, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tool, Councillor Tool.
Good afternoon, Telvi.
We're glad to have you. It looks like this weekend is ANC weekend. I saw your colleague on FOL briefly, so it looks like it's camping weekend. I think it's camping weekend, but then we're glad to have you. I wanted to piggyback on one of Steve's question, probably in a different way. Tell us about your role, your duties, because I know you said that you talk about the approval levels, but your line of work. Just give a high level.
For ANC, I run the day-to-day affairs of the ANC, and I'm in charge of the secretariat, which deals with documents and correspondences and communication information within the CC. So I have oversight responsibility as per the Constitution over those duties.
So you report to who? Directly to Mr. Cummings?
The chairman and the political leader.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure what we hope to accomplish today. So I'm just going to ask open questions. So let's talk first. I guess hot topics. First, the CPP framework document. I've heard, and I'm not going to go much into it, but I've heard harmless change. Well, in speaking of what change or unauthorized change that was made, I've heard harmless change. I've heard cosmetics change. I've heard little change. So what change did happen? And when I say I've even heard from him, your colleague, I think his name is Bape, when he was on Spoon, and he referred to as harmless change when they asked about unauthorized change. So what change, however, be it small or little, what change was unauthorized?
I wouldn't be able to say exactly the context in which Councillor Jafar Bape was speaking in, but when he talked about harmless error, little errors, as they have been carried around here. Look, take for example, there may have been a situation where maybe the CPP document, the CPP rather, was referred to as the coalition of four collaborating political parties. It was advised to just remove the four instead of and say coalition of political parties, CPP, because it would sound odd to say four political parties. So remove the four. And then there was another instance like typo, the basic typo, which are the functions of any secretary in the world. But those ones were not even done by the secretary. They were done at the level of the lawyers and those who work with the lawyers to fine-tune the document. So the secretary did not even have, the secretary that I headed of the CPP, we did not have anything, absolutely nothing to do with the framework document. The framework document was worked on by the lawyers and a team of technicians put together to work along with the lawyers. And once they were finished with their work, they sent us a copy of the framework document. So those minor changes, those what you refer to, if there were any, cosmetic changes may have been done even at the level of the lawyers.
Okay, thank you. So still on the document and with the court, you wanna give us a high level, because obviously we can't see everything and we don't see everything on Facebook. You want to give us a high level where we are in this case for us who don't follow it as much.
So there are two cases going on. Maybe I can speak to both of them. I don't know which one you are referencing.
Well, the framework first, and you can reference the other one if you like. But the
both of them are related to the framework.
Oh yeah, okay.
So let me begin with the one at the court, the criminal one.
Okay.
So there's a criminal case going on at the magisterial court. Mr. Bernard Ure and his ALP, with the instigation and the acquiescence of the United Party, frame up charges that we in the ANC we altered the document. And so they use the United Party used the ALP as a conduit to get at the ANC. And the ALP filed a lawsuit charging me, Mr. Alexander Cummings, and Senator Daniel Nantin with forgery and criminal conspiracy. And so since January, we've been going through the trials, and their contention is the document that we filed with the National Elections Commission of Liberia on July 14th, 2020, was not a document they signed on May 19, 2020. And so we've been waiting for them to produce the evidence, and together with the government lawyer, the CDC government lawyer, Serena Sifos, they've not able to produce the evidence. They've been on fishing expedition. They filed charges against us, order our arrest, but they have not produced any document. They say the people should look for the documents. So it brings to mind what evidence they evaluated to even reach the conclusion that a probable cause existed to have led to arrest and the commencement of trial. Now they start looking for people. Be as it may, that's the Liberia judicial system. In other jurisdictions, the judge will have just thrown a whole case outside. But here we are in Liberia, and we have to keep waiting, and we're operating at the whims and caprices of a guy called Serena Sifos. So the case continues. So when we went to the court, we told them, which is our right under the law, to produce and present to us evidence that they were depending on, relying on to prosecutors. And together with that, we wanted all communications, the CPP communications, from the political leaders' chat room, which is called the National Advisory Council chat room. And so successfully, they presented all of the text messages, the communications are marked and between the political leaders and all members of the National Advisory Committee. Since the National Advisory Committee was organized, I think somewhere before June or something like that, or before May, they brought all of the communications, and all of those communications showed that there was a framework document that was virtually signed via Zoom. Meaning the political leaders did not gather in one room. Everybody was at their individual place. Alexander Cummings was on 15th Street in Sinker. Bernard Ure was in Carisburg on his farm. Yomli Kanga Lawrence was at the offices of she was in Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. And Joseph Borka was in rehab community around beyond the ELW area. So they signed. Immediately after they signed, there was public outcry that a job clause in the CPP document appeared to be discriminatory against ordinary Liberians. And the fear of public backlash led the CPP to convene an emergency meeting and agree to turn the document quickly over to a group of lawyers, independent lawyers who were not part of the CPP. Some of those lawyers, I'm not going to call their names, but I'm going to describe them. One of them is a former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of Liberia. One of them is former Justice Minister of Liberia. One of them is a former Labor Minister of Liberia, and other practicing lawyers who are not members of the CPP or any political party. And they were requested to provide professional expertise, and they consented. And so they did a review. And by the time they finished with the review, they sent it back to the CPP and made a presentation at the offices of the Liberty Party in the presence of all of the political leaders. And the political leaders accepted all of the proposition of the lawyers. My understanding is, with the exception of two, which they said they were going to revisit. At the time of the commitment to revisit, there is evidence that Alexander Cummings communicated with them that, colleagues, this is where we are, these are the issues, this is what you're supposed to do. We've agreed on all of these issues since the lawyers met. We met again, approved these issues, we agree on them. Please get the framework document as amended by the lawyers to your National Executive Committee members to review it, and if they agree, let them approve it, and so we can sign this thing. There's communication, text message exchanges to that effect. And Some of the political leaders and the party chairman consented and commented and said, yes, we are acting. We're going to get the resolutions. Our party ECs are going to respond to them. There's the same level of pressure they are claiming not to be aware of today. So guess what? When we asked them for all communications in the chat room, they brought all of the communications, but they removed the criminally omitted that aspect in which Alexander Cummings told them to take the document to the National Executive Committee, and the same aspect in which they agreed that they were reviewing the document, they were approving it, on the basis of which they presented resolutions. They extracted those parts of the chat room communications and presented the ones that did not include them. And so we raised the issue.
The 2 weeks, WhatsApp message.
The 2 weeks, yes, the 2 weeks. And because of that information alone exonerates Alexander Cummings and all those who are accused. That information contained in that is clear evidence that nothing was altered. They were aware of it. They were part of it. They signed it. So they criminally extracted that. They did not want the public to know, and they thought we wouldn't have known as well. But as God will have it, it got exposed, and we're going to present that when we are presenting our evidence. So then they built an argument that by the time they signed it, there's a guy called Mo Ali. He said he brought 5 copies, signed copies to me, and gave it to me. Common sense. They signed the document. May 19, they signed the document. And there was public backlash. So immediately we gave the document to the lawyers to review. Mo Ali, according to his twisted logic, is saying at the time the lawyers were reviewing it, then he was giving me the originals to go far. It makes sense to anybody? Doesn't make sense. All of us really get the lawyers the document to be reviewing. Then you say you bypass the lawyers while the lawyers are reviewing. Then you bring originals to me to go far. Does it make sense to anybody? It doesn't make sense. So they can't tell you anything. They keep lying when you ask them the question they were judged. For example, my lawyers asked Mo Ali at the Elections Commission, when did you give it to Mr. Toe? And he said, I can't remember. Did you obtain receipt? Oh, we're operating in good faith, so I get receipt. So how should we believe that even deliver anything to you? He said, yeah, believe me. Does it make sense to anybody? It does. For me, it doesn't make sense. But I thought this was all politics because they wanted to get out. But that people start swearing the Bible that to be lying, it makes me to be afraid of certain people, you know. So this is the case of the criminal case. The second case is the case with the Elections Commission. The Unity Party got out without exhausting the dispute resolution mechanisms within the framework agreement. The ALP also got out without exhausting it. Then the Unity Party went and said they want to field candidates. So we went and filed complaint to the Elections Commission that, look, these guys signed a contract. They signed a contract. They can't get out. Most of them did not even exhaust the dispute resolution mechanisms within the CPP.
So is it because they haven't exhausted the dispute mechanism or a contract they cannot get out? Because we can get out a contract anytime, but the
contract did not say you can't get out in the first place. Oh. The contract says you can get out. Anytime you want to go, you get out after you exhaust the mechanisms. But
okay, so the mechanisms more.
Yeah, when you finish getting out, thank God, you can do anything you want to do, but you cannot use the name of your party to field a candidate.
Okay.
If you get out of the CPP, you cannot use the name of your. You can do anything with your political party. You can go join other collaborations and coalitions and use their name, but you can't use the name of your party to join to field any candidate. That's all. So we told the Elections Commission that the UP got out. She can operate as a political party. We are happy. We will compete. But they cannot use the name of the Unity Party to field any candidate. You know.
Okay.
Now we want them at the Elections Commission. They file an appeal to the Supreme Court, and hopefully we haven't received any assignment from the Supreme Court. Probably tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday we'll receive notice of assignment for hearing at the Supreme Court, and we'll proceed there and make our case.
Well, you're busy. Okay, Steve. What are you? I'll hold up yet. I got some follow-ups, but I'll hold up and let Steve go.
Feel free anytime.
Thank you, Tel. If you're just joining us, watching SKTV, we're in an interview / a conversation here with Councillor Luscious Stoll from the ANC. I want to move a little to go back to Councillor Luscious Stoll about who he is, because I'll come back to the CPP framework document, but I'd like to find out something. In 2005, Councillor Luscious Stoll, you had an interview with someone called Clark Malek. Kite Malek, I mean not Clark, Kite Malek. And in that interview, you revealed some things, and I wanted to bring it up to the viewers really quick. In our interview, this is what was revealed. Aloysius Stoll has been jailed twice. The first time was after he spoke against atrocities committed by Charles Taylor's son after he was released. Someone has noise in the back. Someone has noise in the back. I think, okay, very good. So let me go back. The first, Aloysius Stoll has been, this is 2005, imagine. Aloysius Stoll has been jailed twice. The first time was after he spoke against atrocities committed by Taylor's son, which is Chucky Taylor, I believe so. After he was released, Stoll went on into hiding. However, after soldiers raided his house and kidnapped his wife at gunpoint, leaving his small children alone in the house, Stoll chose to turn himself in to protect the family. He was in jail for 8 months before Taylor's regime collapsed and he was freed. But here is something that strikes me, because these are your words, and I want to ask you a question about this. These are your words. Despite the danger he faced, Stoll has remained focused on his goals. He told Reebok, quote, I dream one of the day by being able to sleep in peace in my own home, in my own country, he says. And I dream that one day I'll be regarded as dignified people, as a country with direction, as a country with national spirit. Based on the facts and the realities of today, do you think this dream that you had those years back, since 2005, or maybe before, do you think those dreams are coming to light in the 21st century, 2022, where we are today? If not, why?
The prospects are good, and the moments, to some extent, seem captivating. But there have been factors, there have been challenges to kill that dream. I have dreamed that Liberia will become a dignified nation that is going to be respected by its neighbors and by other nations in the Community of Nations. Unfortunately, by way of historical accident in 2017, we are where we are. But in the science of social progress, it doesn't move in a rectilinear motion. Social progress doesn't move in a rectilinear motion. It moves in spirals. So after the war, Liberia was at this level, very low, at a low plane. Mr. Taylor destroyed the country with other warlords. They destroyed the country. We had democratic elections in which Ellen Johnson Sirleaf won. And so the country made a leap, democratic leap, in terms of gaining respectability in the international community and rebuilding a ravished nation. But the regime of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was not without challenges. There were a lot of challenges, and there were a lot of missteps by the Sirleaf administration. However, there was progress, and so the level of Liberia elevated from this level, from Charles Taylor War, up to this level during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's era. It is thus expected that from this level, Liberia should have risen to this level when George Weah came to power. However, instead of coming to this level, under George Weah, Liberia has declined in all aspects. But my message to the Liberian people is not to lose hope, because social progress and political struggles do not move in rectilinear motion. They don't go straight. They move in spirals. So there are times that you are at this level, you think you make a leap, but then because of this spiral motion, you come right back. When you find yourself at this level again, you think you are losing hope, that everything is going away from you. But the moment you make a leap, you are above where you were. So yes, so at Charles Taylor time, Liberians were at this level. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time, they came this way. George Weah came to power, the Liberians expected to rise up, but now they are at this level between Charles Taylor and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. But we are hoping that by the time Alexander come to power, Liberians are going to make a huge jump. They are going to make a huge jump that will satisfy us power. So yes, we are now where I hope that we will have been. But this is why I and other people are involved in the struggle to make sure that Liberia reaches where all of us hope to reach. There have more than 250,000 Liberians have died. Properties destroyed. The international community has committed a lot of resources in this country to rebuild the country. What we have is not what we pray for. Democratic institutions have been compromised. Corruption is at the highest point. We have a group of guys in power who only think about stealing. We don't think about anything nation building. The economy is on life support. Budget tax collection is the only norm of the day, and whose pockets that goes in is what the government knows best. We continue to receive handouts from the IMF in order to support our national budget. Civil servants are earning any salary that cannot take them home, and hospitals are in shambles. The latest catastrophe at the Iraba International Airport just is clear evidence of the failure of those who we have entrusted with political power to resuscitate this country. Unfortunately, as I have warned in other discussions, we are nearing state failure. I'm solely afraid that we will not reach the level of state collapse, but we are nearing state failure. The institutions of government are not working. They are not responsive to the needs of the people. No one is protected in this country. Everybody is living by the mercy of God. We have government and police that are supposed to protect us, but literally mysterious murders or mysterious deaths have become the norm of the day. And the only consolation we get from our president is everybody should buy CCTV, and there is no guarantee that we will be able to be protected.
So I want to move another angle on this conversation, considering some might say you are a lawyer of integrity, some might say you're a good man, some might say you've been in the trenches, you've been fighting, going back to your history or whatever now, what you stood for, speaking against Charles Taylor, who many thought was very brutal and, didn't care, would get rid of you or whatever now, yet during those days you spoke. But also, most recently, as part of your rebuttal, when this entire CPP saga started, or this accusation against whether it's you or your political leader, Mr. Alexander Cummings, or your chairman, Daniel Netien, you made a revelation about someone that I want to bring that name in. But the reason I'm bringing the name in here is because I want to tie into something that you also did on behalf of this person. So you called Costa a blackmailer, a liar, and a Chinese talk show host. Yet, you represented Costa as well. So, as a lawyer, you did represent Costa. So, which one is which? Were you protecting a liar, a blackmailer at that time? What is it?
The facts and the circumstances are not the same, and the situations are not the same. Mr. Costa was sued by Nathaniel McGill for $500,000 in a libel suit, a defamation suit. I was under obligation. Other colleagues talked to me. I was under obligation to provide free legal services. He didn't pay me a dime. Unfortunately, the case did not go any far, and we filed the pleadings for Mr. Costa. And when we got into politics, and thereafter we got into politics, Mr. Costa was appreciative. I think his utterances, public utterances, were not damning. I think they were so congratulatory. Unfortunately, he became very, very rude. Let me just put it that way, very rude, especially when it came to the interest of the ANC. And so, look, we have to come back at Mr. Costa because we know who his financiers were politically, and which had no bearing on my legal representation of Mr. Costa, the facts of which were quite removed from my legal representation of Mr. Costa. And so we had to come after him and his chief political sponsor to present him to the public who he was. So at the time when I presented Mr. Costa, I represented Mr. Costa, I represented a Liberian. And not only that time, in fact, when I was in the U.S. studying, I think there was a time Mr. Costa was arrested because of a feud he had with I think a guy from the NSA, one of the president's son who was at the NSA, for which Mr. Costa was arrested. I analyzed the facts, and I realized that Mr. Costa was being arrested because of his stance on national issues. And I think the government was not justified at that time to have arrested him. So I issued a statement in my name. Mr. Costa called me up when I was in the US. He congratulated me on that. But what has happened, look, what has happened with the ANC has been a scheme by Benin Ayure to use Costa to destroy the ANC. Because we have a vulnerable and very gullible population who only consolation as a result of the failure of the real government is to listen to radio station and lies. And Costa happened to capture that airspace. He misused it, he abused it. He used that with the intent of destroying reputable people for his selfish political gain. And so I think it was necessary to come back and to expose Costa, and not only Costa, but his main benefactor, Benin Ayure. And so I did that, and from that time, I felt the case was made. I'm not going to come back to say that until Costa can provoke another situation, and I'll be very happy to come back at him.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarity and the context. I would have wished you would expand on that case, and if you continue as Costa's lawyer on that case, but maybe we can address that for another time. If you continue on that case or not, and why didn't you continue on that case? You're muted, please. You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
That case did not go far. I think the case was not pursued by Nathan Magee. There are some reasons why the case was not pursued, but as protected by the attorney-client privilege, I cannot say why. That case did not continue.
I knew you were going to go there and use those legal terms or whatever it is, but that's acceptable. But let's move forward, because you accused the Unity Party not too long ago when Telvi asked you one or two questions. You accused the Unity Party of, I'm not sure if it's indirectly fueling this confusion or this misunderstanding or this allegation from the ALP through Benin Ayure. You accused the Unity Party. So my question to you now is, what evidence do you have that the Unity Party is directly involved with this, number one? And number two, the second part of this question also in reference to Mo Ali. The public is aware that the secretary of the CPP, that was one of the unit that worked together. You guys worked together throughout, regardless of who was there, and I stand to be corrected, regardless of which party was leading at the time. So my question to you is, what was the working relationship like from all members of the secretariat from these different parties that brought up this noise? Because this seemed like it's going to fall down on the secretariat at the end of the day.
When I headed the secretariat, Mo Ali was not even a member of the secretariat. He did not represent the Unity Party. Mo Ali was hustling around political leaders at that particular time. The Unity Party, when I was Secretary General of the CPP, the Unity Party was represented by its Secretary General, a guy called Patrick Wozi. And there were three persons from the Unity Party who represented the Unity Party to the CPP Secretariat that I headed. The head was Patrick Wozi. The other representative of the Unity Party was Roland Lafayette Giddings. And the third representative of the Unity Party was Helena Joe Knuckles. Those were the representatives of the Unity Party to the CPP Secretariat. Mo Ali was nowhere around. He did not participate in any of the Secretariat meetings. You should understand these individuals are people of high caliber and decency with the Unity Party. They will never come and testify. Because this whole thing, they don't want to ruin their reputation because they have name and reputation to protect. It's the like of Mo Ali who said, I have nothing to lose, so I will continue lying. Why has the Unity Party not even put any of these people on the stand or to make a public statement? I'm calling the names. Patrick Wozi, the former Secretary General, under whose leadership of the Unity Party that we filed the CPP framework. Roland Lafayette Giddings, Helena Joe Knuckles. Let the Unity Party bring them and tell them, and let them say something. It's only the like of Mo Ali that they will use who will keep lying, of all of these things. But it's understandable. It's politics. There are people who think they have nothing in life to protect in terms of reputation, and so they will go about lying in the name of politics. And then
Councilor Luscious, please, I don't normally do this, but I want to hold you there, because this is critically important for us to understand in terms of who you work with, when this firmware document was filed. Just before you answer the next question, how did Mo Ali come into this picture? If he was not aware, how did he get the opportunity to even pass around to get signature or documents or whatever now? Can you fill that part of the puzzle, please?
So when the lawyers got completed with their work and they review everything, and the amended version from the lawyer was sent to all of the political parties to approve, and there was confirmation from the political parties by the presentation of their individual resolutions approving the lawyer's version. The lawyer's version was sent to me. It was sent to me. And so the idea came, look, you have to get the political parties to sign a signature page. So Mo Ali was asked at that time to carry the signature page around, 5 signature pages around in June for the lawyers to sign. Not for the lawyers, for the political leaders to sign, which he did. I remember, like I was reminding him a few days ago, I remember I called Mo Ali on the phone. I said, Mo, we are behind time. That was in July. We are behind time to file the document with the Elections Commission. If we don't file now, we will not field candidate because we'll be behind time. He said, yes. And Mo told me on the phone, he said, look, every political leader has signed except Benina Ure. Well, it's fine, but I need gasoline. We had a lot of gasoline for me, more car, for go on Benina Ure in Carisbreg to come back. But it's the same Mo Ali who has come back to frame different story. Human beings are dangerous.
So who recommended Mo Ali to? This is interesting, and we have to put these things together. First of all, Mo Ali was not part of the Secretariat. Second of all, who recommended him to be the one to go and collect these signatures when you had members of the Secretariat still present?
So when Mr. Cummins was the CPB chairman at that particular time, and so I liaised with my colleague Moriah Cllr, who was the chief of staff of Mr. Cummins, because once the lawyers completed their work and sent it to Mr. Cummins' office, Mr. Moriah Cllr sent it to me that the document was ready to be filed. And so I asked, I said, look, where are the signatures of the political leaders? And she said, Mo is collecting them. So I called Mo on the phone. Mo, where are the signature pages? Mo said, look, everybody has signed, but Benina Ure has not signed, so I'm going to Benina Ure farm. He said it's only farm for him to sign. So I think that's how Mo came in the picture.
So no one recommended Mo to go and get the signature from no party or none of the leaders, because it's quite important to figure this part out too as well.
I was informed by my colleague Moriah Cllr that Mo was collecting the signatures, but probably Moriah will be able to tell you who recommended Mo to collect the signatures.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's fair. Tell, it's up to you.
You're on this thing. But anyway, stay on the Fremont document. So I know you mentioned that they have not, the parties that left did not exhaust the internal mechanism. Do you know whether they attempted, using those mechanisms before leaving?
No, they never. No, they didn't. Look, so the framework document says, according to the mechanisms, that when there's a complaint from one political party to the CPB chairperson, the chairperson should set up a grievance, internal grievance committee to probe the allegations. And the framework document spell out the composition of the grievance committee. It says the political leaders and the CPP should name, I think, 3 independent persons. If I read that, probably I will know the exact words. But I think the concept is that 3 independent people should come up outside, including a lawyer that should be appointed, who are not members of the CPP, should be appointed on the grievance committee. And the party that is complaining should recommend one person, and the party against whom the complaint is made should also recommend one person. I think there's ought to be 5 or 7 members on the grievance committee. That grievance committee should go and meet. And their findings, before they come up with their findings, there should be a consensus. It means everybody should agree that this is what we find. From there, they should present it to the chairperson, and they should be deliberated. Anybody who is not satisfied from the findings can take an appeal, I think, to the executive committee or to the NAC. I don't know, one of those structures. In the current case, because they already had this meeting on Ralphie Highway to one of the United Party officials' house, and let's accuse the ANC, before the ANC want to bring black voting, the ANC put the two stomach, they wouldn't go. So since we can push them out, they accuse them. They accused them at that time, Yumli, the senator from Grand Bassa, was a chairperson of the CPP. And so by the time Bernard Ure wrote a complaint, by the time we read a complaint, Alexander Cummings wrote Yumli and said, look, the framework document says anybody making complaints should state specifically what they are alleging. Meaning Ure should have said the fact. Ure said the framework document was altered. So we wrote Lauren, Yumli, that Yumli asked Ure to state specifically which part of the framework document was altered. We ran behind Yumli. Yumli pretended she was not even hearing ANC. Because they planned this thing, they wanted to do it anyway. But thank God, their own crowd catching up with them, in this area right now. So she did not listen. Then she proceeded in setting up a committee, the Grievance Committee. She did not tell anybody, any independent person from outside. You know who she appointed? One of her errand boy called Augustus Frederick from the Liberty Party. And she told the ALP to bring one person. The ALP brought their own chairperson. And then they told UP to bring one person. UP brought one called Bangaloo.
Is that the committee where Papa was on?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. And then they asked the ANC to send a representative. The ANC sent Councillor Bape, Yafa Bape. When Yafa went there and read the mandate from Yumli, it was twisted. He protested that the committee should not begin work because the constitution of that particular committee was contrary to the framework document. So for almost 2 weeks, the committee was working without Yafa. They ignored him. They did not even want to listen. He complained and wrote there's communication to what I'm talking about. And wrote Yumli. Yumli could not even listen to him. The committee went and did all of what they were supposed to do. And they shared their findings with Yafa. Yafa again wrote another memo of dissent that this report, your own report that you did without me, contradict everything. Because your observations are different and your conclusions are different. In your observation, you say you don't find anything. But in your conclusion, you say something was altered. So what is the basis of your conclusion? And that document was also filed with Yumli, which she did not want to answer. Now, when they finished with that, as by virtue of the framework document, once there is no consensus, that report shouldn't have been. But hastily, Yumli went and released it and called press conference and said, Mr. Kumi should take responsibility. So we said, look, we have no responsibility to take. There's nothing. And then we wrote them another letter when set up an independent investigative committee. The people that reported are the same people that are accusing ANC. The framework document says you should bring 3 independent people from outside. Let's do it. Let's do this thing right. They said, no, we're not going that way again. ANC guilty. And so we are what we are. Read the framework document. They said we should have independent people. There was no independent person. But guess what? Then Yumli, the same Yumli Kanga Lawrence, called Mo Ali in to be the resource person. So the United Party had 2 representatives on the committee. But guess what? I, Aloysius told, the framework document was filed when I was Secretary General. That committee met for almost 1 month without inviting me or without asking me one question, what happened? Never. I challenged any of them, including their boss lady, Yumli Kanga Lawrence. No, Yumli never picked up phone and said, what happened? These allegations, you filed this document. What is your view? Nobody, absolutely nobody has ever asked me a question in the CPP, their so-called investigation committee, or the Yumli Kanga Lawrence to say what happened. Nobody. Tell me, what kind of investigation is that? You say somebody altered document. And you say, I filed a document. So they say, I fingered the document. But you did investigation for 1 month without asking me one question. Not one. Either informally or formally. Not one. So the whole thing was political, they planned it. They said by every means possible, we got to get rid of CPP ANC. So they were rushing. They were rushing to do everything. But as they were playing their own game, and we were playing their own game, because we were thinking ahead of them. The fighters, even before they came up with all these schemes, we know where they met. They met at one of the United Party officials' house on Ralphie Highway. And we had somebody there. And they gave us the whole information that this is what they're planning to do. They were indicted, they were implicated. They're forming lies. But our own lies are catching up with them. Anybody who can read between the lines We know that our own lives are catching up with them now.
So, however be it, when the dust is all settled, any plans of modifying the CPP document? I know we all can see there's so many flaws in it. Even, Steve can even talk about the financial aspect is one thing that I looked at. They talk about, oh, people need to pay, but they didn't put, how they need to pay, or even disciplinary action, or stages of disciplinary action, or even roles and responsibilities and stuff like that. That's just one of many. So any plans, when the dust is all settled? You're having any discussions about modifying this?
Number one, the CPP framework document says any party that does not pay her dues will be removed from the CPP. The United Party has not paid 1 cent. Nothing. During the regime of Alexander Cummings, he single-handedly funded the CPP. I think the ALP of Benin Europe paid only $2,400 to the CPP. When I think according to the rules, the CPP is supposed to pay $10,000 per year or something like that.
Sometimes 6,000 or 7,000 a month or something.
I think 24. I think the CPP is each party is supposed to pay $24,000 a year. I think that's why, yeah, $24,000 per year. Only Alexander Cummings paid, and Liberty Party pay I think 50% or so. The United Party pay zero, absolutely zero. Benin Europe pay I think $2,400 during my administration. So there was an argument, and there's communication. I said and repeated reminders to pay, and they were not paying.
But the concept, your document is not very clear as to, okay, well, you need to pay this by a certain time, or this. That's not series of steps. I understand is, you go to this drastic action of you don't pay, you're out, but it has to be series of steps.
So that's what happened. It says you should pay that $10,000 I think in the first quarter of the year. That's what the framework document says. But a recommendation came from the ALP Benin Ure that look, we think we should break this down. Even though the framework document says this, but we think every party should pay $2,000. So even without agreeing, that's how you pay the first $2,000. Without everybody agreeing to his proposal. The framework document said the money, I think the $10,000 should be paid or something, and then but you have to pay $24,000. In the wisdom of Ure, say instead of paying the money at once, we think we should pay $2,000 every month. So the first time he paid $2,000 or $2,400, something like that. I think that's the only money he paid. But United Party has not paid anything. Liberty Party makes some payment.
There was no oversight there too. I mean, we can talk about it forever, but there was no oversight there. Nothing.
There was oversight. We had a financial committee, and these delinquent parties were remanded repeatedly, but they became intransigent, and especially the two parties now that are, on this campaign, they became intransigent, and I think that they had something under their sleeves, which is now unfolding. And so they thought they could undermine the administration of Alexander Cummings, which did not work.
Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about a quorum. There's no telling. There's no telling you're very upset about this case, and I mean, the choice of words and all of that. But we've seen your press conferences, we've seen your posts, and of late, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, the 20th or probably sometime this week. You decided to put out some invectives out there, however be it he's the SG or whoever, whatever his title is. And I think they held you in contempt, or they attempted to hold you in contempt. What was going on?
Oh, you mean the courtroom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about it. What happened there?
I couldn't stand the chicanery of Serena Seaforth in the courtroom. Look, we have a country where good people are being put down, and the bad guys continue to play hero. And Seaforth happened to be one of those individuals who should not even be practicing law in this country. And I've said that over and over. The likes of Serena Seaforth should not practice law in this country by all standards. In any decent society, they would never, ever allow Serena Seaforth to practice law. And because of cracks in the criminal justice system in this country, the likes of Seaforth have gone free. But this is the man when former Associate Justice Wilkins Wright, and I continue to say this, Wilkins Wright was Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia. Another lawyer called Councillor Samuel Jacobs was County Attorney. They handcuffed Serena Seaforth for criminal activities. He duped one of his clients and sold fake gold to the man. Not too long. Just during the regime of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, they publicly handcuff CFOs and send him to South Beach. No decent country can even make that such a mess, Solicitor General CFOs. Not only that, CFOs, he was running some funny newspaper called Plain Truth newspaper in this country. And her whole speech is he will go and put lies together. And then when the lies are out, he will extort money from you. That's CFOs. So he wrote some stupid story against Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was sending arms to Guinea to support rebels. And Madam Sirleaf got angry and took the complaint, and I think they arrested CFOs again. The same CFOs was suspended by the Press Union of Liberia. The United States State Department Human Rights Report on Liberia accused CFOs of quashing an indictment against corrupt officials who were indicted because he wanted a kickback. What kind of man we have as Solicitor General? And so when he was doing that nonsense in the court, I couldn't stand it. I blew up. I said, a criminal like you should be behind bars. You shouldn't be in the courtroom.
And your political leader was there?
He was present, yes. And the judge felt my outburst was unprofessional. It was disrespectful and offensive to his court. And so he held me in contempt. But he later purged me of the contempt.
So before I turn with Steve quickly, I understand the history. I'm not a fan of Serena's CFOs either. I mean, professional will be the best. Will be even saying it nicely. But because of that, I'm confused too about your the outburst too. Because I mean, obviously, you realize that you represent the party. You are the face of your party. So I mean, do you regret your action in any way?
My action was understandable in the courtroom. If I have the opportunity to do that to CFOs anyway, I would do it again. My regret is that I did it in the chambers, in the court of the judge. That's my regret. I shouldn't have done it in the court, but if I have the opportunity to do it to CFOs anyway, I would do it. And I would do more than that.
But given your position, now you're tied to a party. You're Secretary General of a party. So that's what it is. Now it's not just Councillor Tour anymore, but Councillor Tour, a political Secretary General of a party, of Mr. Comey's party, who brings forth change or giving this message of change or doing things differently. That's that connection. Do you regret your action?
That responsibility carries a duty to speak truth to power. I'm not making up stories. CFOs has criminal records. He was arrested. The court records are there. He can't deny them. That's public records. He was arrested. Samuel Jacobs is still alive. Wilkins Rice is still alive. They arrested CFOs and handcuffed him for selling fake gold to his client. So part of that duty is to speak truth to the power, rather.
Would you have spoken your truth a better way than the way you expressed it?
Rather than telling that you have criminal records, the fact is he has criminal records.
Yeah, they outburst and everything. I mean,
well, I said to him in a loud tone, maybe I'll be civilized next time and say you have criminal records.
Now we say maybe to the tune. I mean, tune matters too. Now you're Secretary General of the party.
What do you expect from a man whose life has been held on hold for 4 months for no reason? What do you expect?
I expect you to express, or the public expect to express the way you want to express the ill treatment or whatever or whatever foul play, whatever it is, but also to the tune and even doing it professionally.
There was no yelling. There was no yelling in the court. I was just bold, and the judge said I shouldn't have done it in the courtroom, in his courtroom. I was bold, but there was no yelling. There was no shouting. I stood there addressing.
Yeah, but sometimes too, and Councillor, sometimes it doesn't have to be shouting. Sometimes it's just the choice of words that's being said. But listen to, I will tell you this though, and I said it to a couple of people. I mean, your participants. When you get into the bank, whether Liberia or America, very rarely you see the C-level executives. Who do we see? We see the bank tellers. We see the personal bankers. So you guys, you or Mariah or whoever else, because those are the news. I'm just calling her name today because that's your SG or whoever else. I don't know all the people in your party. So you guys are the people we see. So such outbursts and things like that, however be it, I understand the history. In my opinion, for people like us who doesn't, we don't align to any party, we're blown off. Like, this is a turn off. You can still express how you feel. I can tell you that I'm just saying. I can tell you're stupid or you're silly without even with a smile, pretty much. But I'm still telling you what I'm telling you. And so I was taking it back, and hopefully you see it that way, that you are the face of the party.
I appreciate and respect your position and your thoughts, and I think there's no reason why anyone should think you are wrong, but at the same time, it's also understandable that when charges are framed against innocent people, I think the worst disappointment should be in the fact that somebody sat in the corner and framed charges against a reputable male Alexander Cummings to ruin his reputation. I think that should be a major concern to an individual who does that. Why should be a turn off as a fact our criminal justice system is being used to harass innocent people, and I think that should be a turn off to many people. That our criminal justice system should not be used to harass innocent people, but when they respond, then we are turned off. We should be turned off when they have been harassed.
All right, we'll move on. So what to you, Steve? I see your people, they're on fire, but it's okay. We're used to this. We're used to it. Go ahead, Steve. Steve, you're on mute.
If you're just joining us, we want to welcome you. This is SKTV. I was enjoying the interaction between Telvi and Councillor Luscious Stool here. We want to say thanks to our listeners and our viewers. Momentarily, we'll turn to the phone to get one or two, questions for Councillor Luscious Stool here. But before we do that, I want to go back to Councillor Luscious Stool on some of his assertion, because I'm trying to make sense of something here. First of all, Mo Ali is not part of the Secretariat. What was Mo Ali's role in this entire CPP surrounding the framework document? What is his role in this entire CPP?
What I would say, I think Mo Ali was an errand boy. That's what I would say. I think he was being used as an errand boy. He opportunistically jumped at opportunities. So when there's a program, he fights to become MC. And when it's a program, he fights to become an MC. And when there is any other thing, he jumps at it. And so I think it was because of that, as a way of accommodating him. That's why they say, look, collect the signature pages.
So let's go back. An errand boy.
He's off camera. I think he stepped away.
Yeah, he's off camera, but I think he can hear
maybe
us.
He's listening. Yeah, maybe he's listening.
This is interesting, because it's important for us to pinpoint Mo Ali's role, as to understand the context of why now he's become a key figure into this whole noise. So if Mo Ali was considered an errand boy, if Mo Ali was considered someone, we saw at the very first signing of the CPP framework document, I think Mo Ali chaired that particular event, or he was the moderator for that particular event when they did it online. I stand to be corrected. And the CPP allowed it to slide. Mo Ali did not have an official role, like you said. He was not in any official capacity or so forth, based on what you've said. So then my question to you now is, can Mo Ali, he who did not have an official role, even be used as a witness, and you guys allow this to happen?
Well, he's a witness for the state. We can't prevent him from testifying. We have the right to cross-examine him, and this is what we can do. We are going to do.
Okay, I have the right to cross-examine. Okay, I want to go back a little bit to the CPP due payments and so forth. I want to go back to it. Would you say the ANC and other members of the CPP, the LP, was lackadaisical about not holding people accountable, especially in the face of the public, because you guys did not make any of this information public? We've been hearing bits and pieces here and there. Where do we go? Did you guys enable this behavior? Did you guys also enable this to happen continuously, because you all kept it tight lips and more like a top secret? What do you say to the public? I think Councillor Luscious will be back with us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us, yes.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
He's there.
So look, no, we're not lackadaisical. I think we're just, we were just compassionate. We were not lackadaisical, but compassionate with our fellow constituent parties that could not afford at the time. We know some of the parties were really facing some financial crisis. We know that. So instead of being rigid, we say, look, we think they need time to put their act together and make the fund, maybe pay their dues and pay the fund. So it was not an issue of being lackadaisical. It was a question of being compassionate, being sorry for those who cannot afford. The Holy Scripture says, if you do this for the least of these, my brethren, you do it for me. So we say, look, let's give them some time.
Well, Councilor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll hold you there because you're not running a religious group. Let's be clear on this. You're not running a religious group. You are vying for the presidency where people will be held accountable. And you are speaking against the George Weah-led government who is unable to hold his people accountable, as evidenced by the same airport. President George Weah comes in May 28th. The airport is dark. Today, May 27th, the airport is still dark. Or May 26th, the airport is still dark. April, about a month. No one's held accountable. Nothing's going on. And you are telling us that you are doing sympathy thing. And what do we say?
We could not pursue and force people to pay. We thought they could over time meet up with their own financial obligations. It was not purely for sympathy purposes, or like Telly put it, that we're being lackadaisical. You need to understand here that, look, even though we're not running religious organization, but the religious beliefs of people who are in leadership sometimes influence the political decisions they make. So even though we're not running political, and I cannot tell you from where I sit, why we as an institution did not expel the United Party for not paying dues. But all I can tell you is that, look, at that particular time, we believed that a united CPP was more important than driving out another political party because they were unable to pay. We believe that a united CPP was important to defeat George Weah than chasing out another member of the CPP, hoping that they were operating in good faith, and chasing them out because they could not afford to pay. Okay. So if you call that weakness on our part, we plead guilty for being weak at that time, but guilty without regret.
Would you make available the financial records to SKTV of the CPP?
We've turned everything over to the United Party. We give them a dose. When we talk about, we didn't collect one paper from the ALP. They didn't give us one paper. We created records and turned dossier over to the Unity Party, to the Liberty Party. And I think the Liberty Party turned over to the Unity Party. So if you need the records of the CPP, go to the Unity Party.
So you have no copy. You're trying to tell me that you have no copy of any of the records you turned over?
We are not authorized to do that. The leadership of the CPP will be able to do that.
That's interesting. So there is no provision that states that you can keep these records. So today, if the court were to ask you, this is interesting. We need to get into this. If the court were to ask you today to provide any of these records that maybe the United Party refuses to provide, or the LP refuses to provide, if the court were to ask you to provide these records that you built or you created, you are telling me that you don't even have a carbon copy of it.
That's not what I said. I said I'm not authorized. I did not tell you I don't have. I said I'm not authorized to do that. I'm not authorized. I didn't say I don't have.
So what are the procedures for SKTV to get these copies from the ANC? Do we have to write you guys formally or so forth? Then we can
go to the leadership of the CPP, and if they authorize that document, you will get copy.
Okay, no problem. We'll follow the proper channel as you said, and we're hoping that you will have mercy on us and give us the copy too, because it seems like you guys are merciful in the CPP. But let's move on to something that's very interesting. Let's move on to something that I think that's a little interesting here. Now, the CPP is left with the LP and the ANC. Most recently, Mr. Alexander Cummings states that by default, he's become the leader of the CPP. And it seems as though there has been some backlash. There's been some backlash or pushback from some members of the public and some Unity Party partisans as well. My question is Mr. Alexander Cummings the leader by default, considering you still have the Liberty Party in there? Is Mr. Alexander Cummings by default the leader of the the CPP?
So if there was backlash from the public, we can provide clarification to the public. But if there was backlash from the Unity Party has no qualification to even question anything in the CPP. They withdrew from the CPP and they are no longer members of the CPP. So they have no qualification to question anything. The answer to your question is this. Look, Alexander Cummings applied. The ANC had convention and elected Alexander Cummings as their standard bearer to vie for the CPP standard bearership. There were two candidates who expressed intention to contest for the CPP standard bearership, Alexander Cummings and Joseph Boakai. So those were the only two candidates in the CPP. Joseph Boakai and the Unity Party led the CPP. Alexander Cummings remained in the CPP. So there are only two parties in the CPP, the Liberty Party and the ANC. With the leaving of Joseph Boakai from the CPP, it remains only Alexander Cummings who has ambition for the CPP standard bearership. Now you will also recall that the Liberty Party, which still remains in the CPP, endorsed the candidacy of Alexander Cummings to become the standard bearer of the CPP. By that endorsement, coupled with the fact that there are only two parties in the CPP, the ANC and the Liberty Party, Alexander Cummings by default becomes a presumptive standard bearer of the CPP by logical reasoning. There were only two contenders, one left already, and the other party already endorsed him. That endorsement has not been withdrawn. So he's by default the standard bearer of the CPP presumptively, pending the primary.
Okay. All right. Well,
and when is this primary?
The CPP primary, I think, supposed to be between 9 and October, but we want to get, according to the CPP framework, it should be between 9 October. Okay. But probably the schedule will be adjusted, judging from all of this hullabaloo.
Because of the court cases? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Steve, you're done?
Okay. I want to ask one more question. I'll come to you, Jeff, for you to ask me two questions, and then we'll go straight to the phone lines. And I know this whole CPP thing is a big thing that needs to be unraveled, and it might require time. But here's a question I want to ask Mr. Aloysius too when it comes to the CPP and ANC and LP. The Unity Party has told the world that they are the biggest party, they are the party of the numbers, and they got the numbers. Aren't you afraid that you are in this noise with the Unity Party that this could cost you the presidential election? Should you come to the second round with whether that President George Weah or anybody else? Aren't you afraid that the Unity Party would not support you and this could cost you the elections?
Those numbers from 2017 that the Unity Party continue to claim, they have migrated. Those numbers are not continuous, they have migrated. The factors that existed for which the Unity Party had those numbers, those factors no longer exist with the Unity Party. The Unity Party cannot claim those numbers. Look, prior to coming to the CPP, the Unity Party participated in 5 by-elections. They lost all. They never won anything. The Unity Party was able to win seats when they came to the CPP. Without the CPP, there is nothing called Unity Party. By my estimation, look, the numbers from 2017, there were a lot of factors which I cannot go into right now. That's why the Unity Party was the ruling party. A lot of individuals, including civil servants, stormed to the Unity Party. They stood by the Unity Party after having ruled the country for 12 years with patronage politics, where everybody weighed their loyalty based on your economic interest. They gravitated towards the Unity Party. Those conditions no longer exist. The incumbency factor that made people to go towards the Unity Party no longer exists. So if the Unity Party, by virtue of the fact that they came second in the 2017 elections, think they have the numbers, let them prove it. Why are they afraid to go to primary in their own collaboration? If they have the numbers, they should be able to win everybody. Why do they want block voting to go behind the horse and sign resolution and say, we're coming for Mr. X? Why are they afraid of competition if they are the largest party? Prove the numbers. They are yet to prove it. A rally, 2 days ago, a rally that should have been a mass rally to protect the survival of the Unity Party. Only 75 persons participating after much publicity. You have to differentiate between a tiger and a massive political party.
Wow. Those numbers have migrated. Those are the words of Councillor Aloysius Stoll. Telvi, I'll give you the last 2 questions
And
before we go to the first.
sought refuge in other political parties. They are no longer with the Unity parties. Those numbers have migrated. They sought refuge into other political parties.
Telvi, is up to you, please.
So 2 questions. I like the question about numbers because we love data. So Councillor Tool, you may not be the right person, but I'm sure you have a lot of information on this. I've heard, the discussion about the party is growing, it's growing from where you started from, years before to now. What is your membership like? Have you done a survey within the last 6 or 9 months to support such statement? And you want to tell us about the numbers?
Telvi.
Yes, sir.
I know, like me, you have heard it saying around here, Cummings is unpopular, he doesn't have people. Why are they afraid of a man who is unpopular? Do you sometimes pause to ask yourself, but if this man is seen to be so unpopular that he wouldn't get, why are they so afraid of him? They want to destroy him at all costs. The fact is, look, because of the element of surprise, I'm not going to give you any number tonight. But I can tell you, the ANC is the only political party. Just watch. You watch even Facebook. Our people are in the trenches in the communities, recruiting door to door. The ANC is.
Last time you did a survey.
Say that again.
When was the last time the party did a survey to test the temperature and see where you guys at, or what the candidates feel about the party?
There is one going on right now, and for the purpose of this interview, I'm not going to disclose anything. But there is one right now, and at the appropriate time, we'll be giving the information. But people continue to flock to the ANC from the communities, from the towns and villages. And even with this case ongoing, Mr. Alexander Cummings continue to engage the communities. Just last week, he was in District 12. And he continues to go from house to house with his message of change. This is what they are afraid of. And it surprises me. You say, look, your daughter, you guys, she ugly, no marijuana when she go on the street. But every day your friends say, hey, don't go on the street before the bother can hammer you. Hey, you say she ugly? You heard her.
I'll go, right? I like that.
Nothing is not popular, but they're afraid of the man. From the CDC, the Unity, but they're afraid of the man. You see the man not popular, you're afraid of him? You're supposed to be laughing. Why is Cummings their target? Cummings should not even be their target if he's not popular. But they know what they're afraid of and they will get it.
We gotta put a sense of humor to this. So I like that. Anything about women can just make me smile. So I'll be on that one. But one last one though. I mean, I will let you go. I'll talk about Mr. Cummings' last appearance. I watched it, for the most part, not all of it. So you being the Secretary General, if you were to ask your opinion, or give you some feedback or something he could have done differently, what do you think? Where are some of the things that he would have worked on, would have said differently, most of all?
Well, I think it would be difficult for me to say exactly what he would have said because I think he was just superb. He got to the point. He sent his message out there. He talked to the hearts and minds of Liberians. He gave hope to the country. He diagnosed the challenges the country faced. And he presented himself as a man, the only alternative who can solve these problems. He didn't give generalized statement. He was able to go into specifics as to actions that he would particularly take. And when he asked about particular situations and thematic areas, he went into those areas and gave specific details as to how he is going to handle them. Even with some problems, with the crisis we are faced with right now. And he's the only politician on record who is determined and said that exactly what he's going to do about corruption in this country, regardless of who is involved. No other politician has done that.
I hold my thoughts on that, Steve. Over to you. I do have some concerns and some feedback, but it's not important today. Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Telvi. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is SKTV. We are live in conversation here with Councillor Aloysius Stoll from the ANC, who is also the Secretary General of the ANC. Councillor Locious too has been answering lots of different questions here. We want to turn to the phone lines really quick here. The numbers are posted out there. Please, here's the disclaimer. I already have a caller here. You would have 1 minute each. Please go straight to the point. The number is pinned. The number is pinned out there. You would have 1 minute each. Please go straight to the point. No time, please. We don't have enough time, so we're begging you. Just go straight to the point, ask your question, and let's move. And the Councillor too will have the opportunity to answer your call or your question in a little bit. So if for some reason I don't pick up your call when you call immediately, please don't get mad. I would call you back for sure. I promise. So let's try to get our first caller on here really quick. Caller, what's your name? Calling from, please.
Yes, Moses, this is J. Randy, and I'm calling from Pennsylvania.
Yes, J. Randy, what's your question or comment for Councillor Aloysius Stowe here today?
Yeah, so let me first of all say hi to Councillor Stowe. I have followed him for a very long period of time, from 2002, and I think he managed to do some work indirectly for me. That was from the southeastern of the country. And I would like to thank him here. He is a very honest person, in my opinion, and you guys know how critical I am. But what I would like to know from him here is this. Has Mr. Cummings ever had a conversation with him where at a certain point, after all the debacle that is taking place in the CPP, has Mr. Cummings ever had any regret or joining the CPP? Second question, quickly, guys. I would also like to know the chairman of the ANC, who is a sitting senator. Does Councillor Stowe see it necessary and actually reasonable to have a sitting senator serving as party chairman as well? And then last question.
No, you only have two. You only have one, but you're the first caller, so we'll get you two, Chief. So I beg you, let it all pull. I beg you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get somebody else on. That's J. Randy. Let's get this other caller on really quick. Tell if you do have a caller, signal me.
Not yet, but I want to tell I have the phone, so they can call the 469 number.
Yeah, gentlemen. The caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please? You have 1 minute, please. Go straight to it. Hello?
Hello, you getting me now?
Yes, sir. What's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Yeah, my name is Lawrence Yan Yene, and I am calling from Waterloo, Iowa.
Welcome to the show. What's your question or what do you have to tell Councillor Stowe here?
Yeah, thank you for coming, Councillor Stowe. Councillor Stowe, I got two questions. This is the first one. Let's assume Unity Party is not making different statement, or it's not saying that they don't know about the other part of the framework document, and it's accepted. Does it in other way contravene the national constitution? Let's assume that clause that says you are forced to remain, and when you leave, you will see Kennedy nowhere until after 6 months. Let's assume it's accepted by everyone. Does it in any way contravene the national constitution? Then second question, Councillor Stowe, why if you go to the Supreme Court, you lost this case with your client, what would be your next step?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please? You got 1 minute. What's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Good afternoon, Steve. My name is Joseph Porto, and I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph. What's your take?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I got a question for Councillor Stowe. Councillor Stowe, we see the case that Mr. Tommy is going through. At this point, the court is have ordered that you have to go to court every day. So, I mean, what effect would that have on his campaign as far as going to talk to people in the various community?
Thank you.
And as well as the ruling of the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court in the case of the Liberty Party. I think yesterday or day before yesterday.
Thank you.
Can you throw some light on this for us?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? You got 1 minute. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please? Yes. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Senator Sayed Blackman. The ANC Executive Secretary. I'd like to call because I was not in contact with what was here before the national election commission. I just want to know as to whether more ever took an oath before that administration body will support such judicial power.
Okay.
Which is saying
Thank you. Thank you. Let me get another caller here.
Steve, after that call, I have a call here.
Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please?
Hang-
My name is McDonald Flobo Nyakwe calling from Minnesota.
McDonald Flomo Nyakwe, go ahead. What is your take here?
I'm question for Councilor Tool.
Quick.
The first question would be it's talking about CPB arrangement. If they have CPB is forced to remain in this arrangement, will it have been in any situation? That's the first question. And number two,
What's the first question again? I didn't get it.
Go, please repeat the question, Nyakwe. You're going too fast. Can you slow down?
My first question is, they are talking about framework agreement. And the rest of the people say there is no sign that document. And they want to force them in this thing. Okay? When they have the consent, they assume that they have been forced into it. Whenever we have it coming to win election, that's the first question.
Okay.
And this one is another question. In the proposal, you don't think as a tool, that be good. So just forget about the whole framework document ever going there. So the police can try, he has done a very good job. Think it's a popularity. Instead of framework document, we want the confusion. You don't think that would be good for CPB? Okay,
Thank you. My man, your 1 minute. Thank you. Your 1 minute finish. Yeah, go ahead. I got another caller, but go ahead with your caller, please. Go ahead, please. We'll just pile up everything and let Councilor Toto just answer and address them and then give us his
maybe after this, but he got so many questions now. So maybe after this person. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Wayne Bell. I'm calling from Minnesota. Quick question. Councilor, is it legal in Liberia for a person to sign a notarized document and date it on a date other than the date that they're signing? And if so, what are some of the recourses to that? If you sign a notary document on a day and then indicate a date other than the date that you sign it, actual date you sign it on, is that legal in Liberia? I'm just asking because.
So like future dating or back dating the document? Other than the actual date that it was notarized, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Liberia is not just recourse. And I've been a notary for over 20 years, so I'm just curious about how does that work?
Yeah, I'm a notary too in the state of Texas. Okay, he'll answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I begin?
No, I got two more callers. That's it for the day. After these two callers, please. So let's get this first call. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please?
My name is Undercover Seditian, and I'm calling from Minnesota. How are you?
Okay, Undercover Seditian, you are calling from Minnesota. That's fine. What's your take?
So that's his name.
I identify himself.
I did not have a question, but I just want to thank Councilor for the good work that he just did. And I want him to tell Mr. Cummings that if there is anything that he did right was to join the CPP, because by him joining the CPP, he was able to expose a lot of the criminals that we already know. But his joining, even though it might seem to most people as a curse and a blessing, it was more a blessing because through his joining the CPP, he was able to expose the opposition and the government. Thank you.
Thank you. One more caller, and that's it for the day. One more caller.
You want to take this last one and then just do all of them together?
I got one here. So tell you do your own, ladies before gentlemen. Do your last one quick. Do your last one quick, please.
Okay. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from? It's you. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm still up in calling from New Jersey.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to ask Councilor Tool. We know the case is now going to the Supreme Court. In his practice as a lawyer, have you ever seen any country around the world where a non-compete agreement was imposed by a court in a nationwide presidential and legislative elections?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. Ryan.
All right, let me get the last one here. Councilor Tool, that's it. Comments, and after that, we'll close the lines. Yeah, caller, what's your name? Where you calling from, please? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Cyrus calling from Minneapolis.
Yes, Cyrus, go ahead, please. What's your take?
I have a very simple question from Mr. Tool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from the beginning of this whole CPP process, I came up with this simple analogy.
Oh, Lord.
And you got it with the CPP. If you got a friction to the CPP, we are less than a year and a half away from an election. We got a year and a half away from an election. You're in court, spending a lot of political capital. You're not getting things right. Can you hear me? I'm seeing you guys making sound gesture. Hello?
I think he can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
I think so. Go ahead.
Oh, you got to sing that to him first. It don't seem like because I'm watching you guys where I'm getting the call.
Yes, I think he can hear you. Councilor Tool, can you hear us?
Like I said, it's up to you. You buy into this idea that it is better for everybody to walk their separate way and then form the real CPP in round number 2 if a political party happens to make the runoff election.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the only question I want to ask.
Thank you, Cyrus. Well,
if you're gonna hate me, I got one here. I beg you, Papa. I beg you.
Real quick now, so
the last one, I promise.
Go ahead.
Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, it is Hassan Omar Duble calling from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question goes to Mr. Tool. As I know, or other Liberians know, Mr. Coming to be a matter of integrity.
Yeah.
My question has to do with this. From what basis, or from what reason, from what consensus of reasoning, or men that believe in, the men that believe in democracy should allow just a clause in an organization to go out where when you leave this party, you cannot see any candidate in your name. You know, sometimes when I think about it, it makes me to somehow doubt Mr. Comey, because no party that believes in democracy will allow such clause to be part of collaboration, then you can go with it. So from what basis we're thinking of?
Okay, he got a question. Caller?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a question. He'll answer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Councilor Toll, it's up to you now. Where the phone lines are down, to address these questions and then maybe give us your closing comment, please.
Okay, so let me start with. I think maybe I should start from the bottom since the last question is fresh on the minds of people. The last gentleman wants to know why Mr. Cummings, who is a mayor of integrity, allows such a clause, that says that if you leave a political party, you can't feel a candidate should be included because, integrity, according to him, integrity does not allow that. Look, let me say this. Mr. Cummings did not put that clause in the framework document. Why he allowed it? That clause, and let it all go forth, that clause, 8.52, was not in the framework document until we gave it to the lawyers. The issue came about from the experience, and that was the advice of the lawyers, from the experience of 1997, when 7 political parties came together to defeat Charles Taylor. Those parties operated for almost 2 years, I think 1.5 years, to defeat Charles Taylor. On the eve of election, when they went to their convention at the United Conference Centers, when Cletus Watterson emerged as standard bearer, all of the parties started disintegrating. They said, no, the election was fraudulent. We'll go our way. We'll go by our business. it made it appear that the purpose of forming alliance and collaboration is meaningless. We came to power, we went to the election, Cllr won the elections to the dissatisfaction of all of the same political parties that once formed the seven political collaboration of political parties in 1997. So when the CPP met and said they also want to form a formation, the lawyers advised them about the experience of 1997, where parties wanted to come together, and they gave hope to the Liberian people last minute to the time because of the individual and selfish interests of politicians. They disintegrated and started running separately. So they decided to brainstorm, what can you do not to break the hearts and the hopes of the Liberian people? And then the agreement came and said, look, the only way we can hold people is, look, once we come together, we sign this thing, and we go to primary. When you now win, then it means you will not run, your party will not run and feel a candidate. They agree, all of them, because of the bitter history of 1997 that I just explained. When Cletus Watterson won, Dr. Tipo left the alliance, Bacchus Murphy left the alliance, and everybody started going out where they said they were wrong. There was no more alliance. So this particular alliance, based on the advice of the lawyers, they said, look, so we can have a repeat of 1997, while last minute everybody will start going their way again. Let's put something in there to hold everybody together. That once we've signed this thing, when you leave, it means you can run your own party, in the hope that that restriction will force them to keep together. So because of the need to save the country from Joshua, just as the alliance of 1997 wanted to save the country from Cllr, they agreed to that. And so Mr. Cummings agreed to that. He said, for the sake of Liberians, I think we need to do it. Because if we want to ravage this country from this bad leadership, then we have to make the ultimate sacrifices. We've got to put our own individual interests aside for the collective interests of the state. That's why they made that decision. And look, the point, another gentleman also said, look, would it be a good idea if everybody worked their separate ways and then build a new CPP, and maybe in the second round, anybody who emerges victorious can be supported by it. That is possible. Nobody is stopping that. And nobody has been preventing that either. And I will tell them my answer to another question asked by another gentleman. That's why when the ALP and the United Party led the collaboration, we in the ANC and the ALP said we don't pursue them. We said we don't pursue them. We don't even invoke any clause. Let them run. Nobody raise any issue. Then they had meeting on Ralphie Highway in the house of one of the leaders of the United Party. Bernard Ayure was in that meeting, and his party executives with the entire United Party Executive Committee. And then they decided to hash a plan that this Cummings man, if we don't stop him, he's also going to be a thorn in our flesh. After the ANC and the Liberal Party said we don't pursue them, we don't invoke any clause, restrictive clause, let it run. Because the noise has just been too much. Since they let the CPP, let everybody go their separate ways. Bam! The moment the Supreme Court confirmed the conviction of Brandon Samuka, they say, we finish cashing him. They will carry into court, work with the government, and they convict Cummings, then he would not run, Cummings would not contest. So their plan was to stop Cummings from running. So they held meeting with Nathaniel Magay, Bernard Ayure, and they said Bernard Ayure should take the lead. The very United Party. And Magay agreed with them calling CFOS. They went and hired a private lawyer. CFOS did not want to take the case. I'm not going to call the name of the private lawyer. To go after Cummings, the private lawyer said, no, I can't do that. He refused. And he said there are 3 reasons why he would not do that. So CFOS said, I will take it myself. And the plan is to convict Cummings, brand him a criminal, so he will not be able to run for president. The Unity Party hashed that plan in the home of one of the officials on Ralphie Highway with the ALP and the supporters of Yomli in the Liberal Party. And the plan was to stop Cummings. I did not hear any Liberian raising any concern that everybody go their own simple way. And they've been looking for evidence and they're lying. So we came back to ourselves and said, look, we have to invoke the clause. Now that they think they have to play with our future, we have to invoke the clause. So we invoke the clause. Now I see Liberians coming, everybody go their separate ways. But when they falsely accuse Cummings and drag him to the court, these same Liberians who have these good concerns never say anything. They kept quiet. They thought it was a good thing to drag Cummings through the mud. But when we invoked the clause, they said, no, but why will you do that? So yes, everybody can go their separate ways. And we can build a united CPP later on. It is possible. Nothing is impossible. Another gentleman asked where in this world, where a court has imposed a non-compete clause in elections commission, in political elections. No, nobody, the court did not impose any non-compete clause. No, the court. Private individuals, political parties by their own free will, came together and said, look, we want to come together. And we don't want, by the time we finish putting everybody together, for anybody to disrupt the process. So if you disrupt the process, then we need to give you some punishment. It's just like damages. Tell me if you went into a contract, you breached a contract, and you get breach of contract, you got to pay damages. The CPP agreed that our form of damages will be we'll leave your knee behind. They say we'll leave your knee behind. That's the form of damages. You can leave. We don't stop you from leaving, but when you leave, you will leave your knee behind, your brain. Because your need adds to the brand of the CPP to make the CPP a kind of classical brand that we sold to the brand people. So just as a court will ask you to pay damages, we agree among ourselves that the damages that you pay if you leave will be to leave your knee behind. Nobody will coerce. Everybody signed willingly. And that brings me to answering the question about the other gentleman who said, you force somebody to be like, nobody forced them. Do you realize that the same document that they are now disclaiming, they attended the certification program to the Elections Commission on August 17? The video is there. All of them. The same document they said they're not aware of. When the Elections Commission invited them on August 17, 2020, all of them attended the certification program. Not only that, when the CPP got certificated on the same document that they said they don't sign today, Alexander Cummings organized a program at the ANC headquarters. All of them attended on the video to receive the certificate on the basis of the same document that the criminal to sign today. On the basis of the same document, all of them fielded 4 candidates, or at least 3 candidates. The Unity Party fielded 3 candidates. 2 of those candidates won on the basis of the same document they said they're not aware of today. Brandon Samuka was fielded from the United Party on the CPP ticket. On the same document that they said they're not aware of. In Lofa County, he won the elections. Representative Ben Fofana was fielded on the CPP ticket from the United Party. He was seconded by the United Party in Magibi County. He did not win. Prince Moy was allowed to run the CPP ticket based on the nomination from the United Party. From Bon County, he won the election. Now the same document the United Party said they're not aware of. For 14 months, they benefited from the document. 14 good months, they benefited from the documents. Feeder candidates in by-elections. Court representation as a collective CPP. But by the time it came to, they were not win primary, then they said they're not aware of document. Why have you seen that? There is a Supreme Court opinion that even says that look, once you benefit from a contract for which considerations were exchanged, no matter how unlawful, you cannot now come and impeach your own commitment to that contract and say, look, it was not correct, it was illegal. That's our opinion. We are saying, and look, the argument has been made, and another gentleman made the argument that the Constitution said you have the right to associate and disassociate. I ask that gentleman to pull up your Constitution, Article 17. There is nothing in our Constitution saying you have the right to associate or to disassociate. Nothing. I challenge you. I challenge the UP lawyers in the court and they couldn't produce it. So I'm giving you the challenge. And I'm going to explain why I say that. The Constitution, the last line of Article 17 says you have the right to associate with others or refuse to associate in political parties. It did not say to disassociate. There's a reason why the framers of the Constitution did not use the word associate. They could have used it. If you look at the operative definition of the word to associate and refuse to associate, there are 2 different things. If I refuse to associate with Telvi, it means I don't want to come close to her. But if I were close to Telvi and say I want to disassociate, That's different things. So if you are part of something and you want to get out, disassociate. If you want to get close to something at new, that to associate. But the Constitution uses the word refuse to associate, meaning you don't want to join. And if you look at the whole Article 17 in totality, it talks about the freedom of assembly, the right of the people to assemble, to petition a government, to come together in political party, or to refuse to come together in political party. The intent of that clause was the government should not force people to join political parties, the ruling party. That was the intent. That people have the right to refuse to join political party. If you look at the whole clause, it does not say anything where you in something you want to get out. More besides, what is in the CPP framework is not that you can't get out. It simply says when you get out, you can't leave with your name. You can go and join other coalition, other political party, and form new coalition. So, for example, Unity Party now can take other political party and they can now form Unity Party coalition. That Unity Party coalition will be allowed to register without object. But Unity Party as a single party cannot field a candidate to be called Unity Party. That's the law. So I don't know why it violated the Constitution. They don't say don't leave, you can leave, but don't use the name Unity Party. So for instance, they can come and say, look, we join other political parties or we register a new party called Unity Party Coalition. If they add the word coalition there or Unity Party forever, they can run. But the name that was registered with the Elections Commission called Unity Party cannot be used to field candidate. That's the argument.
Councilor Tool, I'm laughing and I'm listening to this. I know what came to mind. Like, how can four people not under duress in the sound mind sign such contract? I can leave a marriage, but I'm forced to carry that violent man name forever. I can't carry my parent name, even though the marriage wasn't good. I'm just using it as an example. That's how I look at it because of women issues that I speak to. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I agree. So the law presumes that once by your own free will you commit yourself to certain things, you have to stick to them. But let me say this to you, tell me. Let me give you another. In the Constitution, there's a right called the freedom of movement, right? There's a constitutional right that says you have the right to freedom of movement to go where you want to go. But suppose you and is it Calvin or Prince? You and Steve reach an agreement and say, look, Chelsea and Arsenal playing next week. You said Kevin, Steve, when Chelsea beat a game, because I'm a Chelsea supporter, when Chelsea beat a game, you will not be allowed to go to work to drive from your house. You will stay home that day. But when Arsenal beat a game, I will do the same thing. The king comes up. The two of you agree on sign contract. The king comes up. Arsenal beat a game. Steve said, no, tell me you got to stay home now. You can't go anywhere. In fulfillment of our contract. They say you're violating my constitutional right to freedom of movement. Does that make sense to you? You cannot have that because you waive that right.
Right.
When the party sign our contract, she waive her right.
Right.
Under Article 17, if there's any. So she can't claim it. Nobody force her. She can't claim that right now. Simple as that. The same way when you go to court, you have the right to confront your witnesses. That's a constitutional right, under the confrontation clause. But you can say, I waive it. And you can say you can waive it. You waive it. Does anybody can you say somebody violating your constitutional right? No, because you waive it. The Unity Party waive it. Nobody forced them. That's why they're passing around, dancing around. They say we didn't waive it because we didn't sign it. But even if we sign it against the Constitution, and when they bring the argument, so we argue, then we beat them. So then I keep bringing it. Let me move back to the question so I can close up. The other gentleman talked about in the whole world, he has not seen where the date of notarization or a document notarized with another date that it was signed. I don't know what he's talking about, but if a document was signed yesterday, it will carry, or if a document is signed today, it will carry today's date that it was signed. It's possible 2 weeks from now, when you decide to notarize it, it will carry the date on which you notarize it. Is that what happened in Texas, Telvi?
No, it's real time. You notarize it right there in front of the notary, real time.
That's what I'm saying. But is it not possible that I reached a contract on today is let's say today is May 1st. I sign a contract with you today, May 1st, and on May 5th we go there and notarize it, and you put May 5th as the date of notarization. Is that not the process?
No, why you future dating? Whatever data you signing, that's
You're not getting me. You're not getting.
no,
I'm
I
saying.
think I'm lost there.
I'm saying you sign a contract today, May 1st.
Right.
And then you, for some reason, you are based, so you haven't notarized it. Then you wait 1 week later, you carry it to a notary on May 5th to notarize it.
Yes.
That's what happened in the CPP document. The date of notarization of the CPP document is July 14. But it's not that it was signed July 14. It was not signed on July 14. It was signed before July 14. So I hope that gentleman understands it. The dates on it, the document was not, the notary did not put different date. The notary put a date that he received it.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay, so and then answer the one that shouldn't everybody go their own way. And the gentleman who said with this, why do you want to force people in the CPP without help Cummins? It doesn't help Cummins either. As I told you, Mr. Cummins is committed to a united opposition. Whether be it a CPP or another opposition, he's committed to a united opposition to defeat Joshua. So it does not help in any way to force anybody. He's not forcing anybody in any collaboration. But just as I explained earlier, when the UP and the LP pull out, when the ALP and the Unity Party pull out, the ANC and the Liberty Party were of the view that we're not going to force them. Let them leave. In fact, that clause we will not pursue it. But when they got together and said this Cummins, man, if we don't bring him down, and then they went into bed with Serena Cephas and Nathaniel McGill to disgrace Alexander Cummins, brought fake charges against him to put his reputation, his hard-earned reputation in the mud. We say we invoke the clause. And so we invoke the clause. I had hoped the same concerns that Liberia, again, I trust you, the guy who asked the question, I know he's a gentleman of goodwill. I had expected that the same concern you are now raising, you will have raised the same concern when Cummins was under attack. When the United Party conspired with Bernard Ure to damage the reputation of Alexander Cummins and in cahoots with the CDC to stop him from running, I hope you will have raised the same concerns. Then another person asked that going to court every day, what impact does that have on the campaign? Why it has interfered with Mr. Cummins' schedule, but the campaign continues to go on. As I told you, he's visiting districts. Our people are in the field. People continue to come to the ANC. And the new propaganda by the United Party and the ALP in the counties now, Cummins you're not running again. And the man would say you're not popular. They're just afraid of the man. Or the man you're not running again. But let the world go forth, tell everybody in the counties, as we are doing now, Mr. Cummins is going to be on the ballot comes 2023. And he's going to be in the race. He's going to contest these elections. And there are many Liberians who are coming his way to support him. And there's another gentleman who said, look, that the section 8.5 of the framework document contravene the Constitution. Again, just as I said to you, it doesn't contravene the Constitution. The Constitution says, look, you can refuse to associate. The LP, the United Party did not refuse to associate. She associated in the CPP, and she wanted to leave. We say, yes, the framework says you can leave. But you give a kind of consideration. And we agree to ourselves that we'll leave our names when we are leaving. So that the vision, our commitment for a collective opposition can remain. So you can leave, but leave your name behind. They said no. That's our own agreement. If they are even come for us to amend the framework document and withdraw it, amend it, and change that clause, they didn't do it. They said by damaging Cummins was the only option. Why they didn't come and say, gentlemen, amend this, amend the framework document? Why they didn't come to do that? Why do you think the UP didn't do that? Because their whole intention is to destroy Cummins. Now, when their own medicine choke them, people are saying, oh, you know why? Yesterday, everybody go there. Why you didn't say that in January when they issued charges against Cummins? False charges. So that framework document does not violate the Constitution. The Supreme Court will decide finally, I hope next week, because the case is before the Supreme Court. If we lost the gentleman asked, what if we lost the case at the Supreme Court? That will be the end of the case. Any party that loses at the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court is the final court in this country. Anything that the Supreme Court decides, it will be the final. We can't go anywhere. So if the Supreme Court says that the UP is right in their complaint, then the UP will be free to field candidate. If the Supreme Court say the CPP is right, the framework document is the framework document, then the UP will not feel Canada in their own name. So waiting for the Supreme Court. The last gentleman said that, look, he asked two questions, and he asked whether it's a good thing for a certain senator to be the chairman of ANC. Senator Daniel Nathan is a decent man, hard-working senator. He continues to provide leadership to the ANC, and absolutely the ANC has no problem with that. He has a leadership structure that is effective. As chairman, he does his job. He doesn't have to be on public relations like what he's expected, what some people expect him to do, to run from radio station to a radio station. He has an able team that is doing that effectively, and he has very vital roles that he's playing to lead the CPP. So personally, I don't see anything wrong with a certain senator serving as chairman of a political party. Most of the chairpersons of most of the political parties are basic businessmen. They are involved in the day-to-day running of their businesses. Yet they are chairpersons of political party. I don't see the rationale behind it. The certain senator not being qualified to serve as chairman of a political party. Absolutely, the ANC sees nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that. We continue to enjoy the confidence, and he continues to also enjoy our confidence of Chairman Nathan, and the ANC has nothing against that. The last question was whether Mr. Cummings regret joining the CPP. No, Mr. Cummings does not regret joining the CPP. In fact, he sees the CPP or any other collective opposition as a vital vehicle to defeat Joshua. And he continues to build alliances with other democratic forces in the country, other political parties, to ensure that we defeat Joshua come 2023. What Mr. Cummings regrets is that his colleagues, who together with whom he came to join to form the CPP, will now dash the hopes of the Liberian people and break apart the CPP, which constituted the hope of the Liberian people. This is what he regrets. But he has no regret joining the CPP. He regrets the fact that some of his colleagues, because of selfish personal gains, have now have tried to destroy the CPP, and they have disintegrated the CPP. This is the regret of Mr. Cummings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Toll. What will be your parting comment? Because we know the folks in Liberia from the radio station will be leaving, and we're closing as well. So what will be your parting comment here for the day?
The Liberian people should remain hopeful. A real and viable opposition is going to emerge. The CPP, which continues to give them less hope today, by the grace of God, is going to give them hope tomorrow. And Mr. Alexander Cummings remains committed to building a collective and united opposition in this country to unseat Joshua. All is not lost. The prospects are still good, as I said from the beginning. The movements are captivating. And until the battle is won, the struggle continues.
Thank you. We want to say thanks to our listeners and our viewers all around the world. Thank you so much to Councillor Aloysius Stool. Thanks for being our guest today. We look forward to, having Councillor Aloysius Stool here again for another segment on different issues that we can push him on. Other legal issues as well. This will not be our first time engaging on some of these issues. And as the CPP framework document or the court cases, build up, we'll definitely reach out to him. And if he can speak to them, so some of these issues, definitely would love to hear from everybody. And we want to thank all of you for being here today. Quick announcement: tomorrow we're playing host to Mandela Cooper, who former presidential aspirant. She will be our guest tomorrow. Monday we are back on to analyze what's going on. Thursday, yes.
We gotta let go of Mr. Councillor Tool.
Oh yes, Councillor Tool.
But every time he buys, so he doesn't have to sit here and listen to all of this. So he can.
If we don't leave, if y'all want to hang out with all our
I would love to have you, but I want to.
No, he won't hang with a B-boy.
I want to say thank you so much for the time and for the healthy exchange. And I wish you and your party all the best in your court cases and your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor told one hand with a B-boy. That ain't B. Yeah, we not get a problem with that one.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, so definitely tomorrow we'll be on with Mandela Cooper. We're having some major conversation here tomorrow as well, an interview with her. I think it will be her debut on the show. So definitely would like to welcome her to the show. And we look forward to the conversation. Next Monday we'll be here. Next Sunday will be Councillor Tiawan Gonglo. We don't know. Next Saturday we are looking at bringing Professor Emmanuel Clark. Professor Emmanuel Clark, as you may recall, is for us to talk about President George Weah and his 87 million, all the BB million. Want to dive into it. We're working on getting all President George Weah contracts and all the money he gets. So all the small lad and the lad to all in 2017, it will not happen again. It will not happen again. But in other news, very quick, let me read the other news to you before we leave. We fall down inside again. So in other news, former Vice President Joseph Yuma Boaga, according to Minister Samuel Twe, if you go on his page, he wrote it as Samuel Twe, Facebook name, one of the Facebook name that Priska Paul. He got woman and man name to tell you how confused they are, how to run the country confusing. Priska Paul, which is Samuel Twe, Minister Samuel Twe, the funniest minister ever in Liberia. Let me read a post that he put up. CPP chairman Joseph Boaga has finally agreed to take the witness stand to testify against the existence of the organization. This is what Boaga is capable of, squandering things. So Samuel Twe taking job at Joe Boy.
How you go do her work, man? What could say in that matter?
No, but that is it. Now John Palmer, whether John Red and CDC, United Party, all of them are the same. All of them need to retire. Let them go see one. They got
more issues. They got worry about governing the country. They got issues. They don't move on here, man. You go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much. I think we've come to the end of the show for today. Unless you have something else to say, so we can call it a day.
Nothing, Maya. I think it was a good show. I'm glad we were able to bring Councillor Tour on here to have a healthy exchange. It was good. And I'm sure we look forward to part 2 or part 3 or part 4. But there's just so much that we left out. But it was good overall.
Yes, definitely. It was a good exchange, and we'll look forward to it. But look forward to the show tomorrow with Mandela Cooper. We have lots of questions for her. Lots of interaction. It will be her debut on here, with us. So we'll look forward to it. And then I believe Sekou will be here. Tel will be here too. When it comes to women issues, Tel even that I can't tell she let politics. She will say, I want to your politics talk. I don't want to be your politics talk. But yes, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call it a day. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of drama. Let's do this, Tel. Tel, I'll hit you up. Bye.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
You don't even know my story. You don't even know your story, oh yeah, on the beat, I'll be a local. So moral. You post a new car on Facebook, but that's so la la. You working better, loving and acting jealous, say you photo.